Hello, my name is Becca, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm getting into the spirit of Halloween and I have my top 10 favourite villains. You may notice we've got a little bit of a change of scenery. I am trying to film close to my bookshelves, but it depends how the light holds and working on the angles and stuff, so you'll have to bear with me while I get it right. These are my top 10 absolute favourite villains in books. A lot of them are unlikely villains, so there will be some spoilers, but I will give you advance warning when the spoilers are coming, and I hope you like this top 10. So as usual, I'll be starting from my least favourite to my absolute favourite. The first one on this list is a little bit of a cop-out because I can't remember how he's portrayed in the books, but I do remember the TV show, and I gave all the books away because they're so terrible, but the show is really good. And that is Damon Salvatore from The Vampire Diaries. I will admit he isn't always a villain, but he's very much a selfish character who everybody believes to be a villain even though he isn't. He's definitely one of my favourite TV villains as well. I'm a sucker for a broody character, and that's why I had to include him on my list. Number 9 is a character from a book that I went into knowing that she was a villain, but there was still like some part of my heart that wanted to not believe that she was, even though it's blatantly obvious. And that is Kath from Heartless by Marissa Meyer. Kath is one of my favourite villains because this is a Queen of Hearts retelling. I absolutely love Alice in Wonderland and anything to do with an Alice retelling. I just love the story of this book, how a sweet sort of baker girl goes from who she is, just a young girl who's sort of restricted by her parents wanting to open a cake shop, being the Queen of Hearts, like the main villain in Alice in Wonderland. I thought it was a wonderful story. There were a lot of points where she annoyed me, but I like that we got some perspective on why she turned into such an evil character, and the thought that she did it all for love or for revenge is a lot of the reason why I really enjoyed her character. So number 8 is mild spoilers for the Bone Season series by Samantha Shannon, so if you have not read them you can mute this video until I put the book down and then you can come back. But number 8 on my list is Jackson Hall from the Bone Season, obviously. I like that he is a mentor figure in this. Because there's only been 3 books in the series released, like it's not entirely sure whether he's a villain just because he's selfish and he likes to have power and that he's always been manipulative, or whether it is because he put his trust and he mentored somebody who then sort of turned against him. I like Jackson because he's very much a sarcastic English gentleman type of character. I can just imagine him talking in my head. And he's very witty, he stands no nonsense, he's very much into tough love but to the extreme, so there are serious repercussions if you cross him. And he was a fatherly figure to the main character, and then it turns out that they weren't working for the same agenda and that he wasn't who he said he was, and then he becomes a bit of a villain. And I just think he's got a great character, a great personality. I was a little bit sad when he turned into a villain, but I do like unlikely villains, or villains that you are led to believe are better characters than they turn out to be. Okay, so number 7 is mild spoilers for the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. If you have not read this series, then I would advise muting it, although it's highly likely that you will pretty much know what happens anyway. And number 7 on this list is Tumlin. I know that he's not really a villain, but he's definitely portrayed as one of the villainous characters in this series from the 2nd book onwards. The only reason that he's so low down is because he's not really a villain, he was just hurt and he was upset. The one criticism that I have about A Court of Wings and Ruin is that you don't get redemption for Tumlin, which I really, really wanted because he does have a special place in my heart. But I think he's a great character because it's not often in books that you'll have a love interest that turns into a villain in sort of the human way that we can all turn into villains when things like this happen to us. And I did like that portrayal that when you get your heart broken, as Tumlin did, it makes you do nasty things and mean things and horrible things that you would not normally do. And I liked that this was shown in a book and it wasn't all just sort of nice, fluffy, Tumlin's love interest will always be happily ever after kind of wrap up, and that's why I think Tumlin should be on this list. Number 6 on this list is a lot of people's favourite villains, and that is the Darkling from the Grisha trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. I loved the Darkling. I preferred him to every character apart from Nikolai, I think. It's just one of those cases which does happen occasionally. Okay, so I'm sorry if the angle has changed, but I just kicked my camera on the floor. So what I was saying, it happens occasionally in YA where you have a character who's a villain with a little bit of backstory, and you do get this with the Darkling. It's very much he was sort of made to be that way over time. He wasn't born villainous. There was outside forces that pushed him towards the path that he was on, and I love characters like that. I loved that he wanted redemption towards the end and he wasn't just like purely evil through and through, and I just think that he was an absolutely great villain for this series. And to be honest, with him being one of my favourites, I don't really see him as a villain wholly, because especially in the first book, like, I was rooting for him as a main character, but that's the way it turned out, and I do really like him, so he's number 6 on my list. Number 5 is the Queen of Mont Messner from the Tumlin series by Erica Johansson. The Queen of Mont Messner, whose name I can't remember, is another villain that was sort of made to be that way. I think later on in the series you do see a little bit of a backstory, which I won't go into too much because of spoilers, but she was very much a little girl who was sort of cast out and shunned, and people wanted nothing to do with her, and so she had no love in her heart. She didn't know what love was. She went out to make people pay for what they'd done to her. She's a character that's never known human relationships. She doesn't know what friendship is, or a relationship that isn't based on power. That twisted her into being somebody who was so unfeeling and so cruel that she didn't really understand how horrible she was being, and she'd also locked that little girl up inside of her and didn't want anybody to know who she was, so that she could sort of escape from that and be the feelingless person that she is when she's the evil queen in this series. Number 4 is a very recent read for me, and it does contain spoilers for Nevernight, so if you haven't read Nevernight, then do not listen to this if you don't want the story to be spoiled, because this is a key part of the story. And my number 4 is Aisling from Nevernight. I did not see it coming. I did not know that it was Aisling and Osric. I had absolutely no idea. I just couldn't believe it. I really liked her. She was probably my 2nd or 3rd favourite character in this series. I have only read Nevernight at the minute. I haven't read God's Grave, and there will be a 3rd book, so I can't say if she is going to be a villain or whether she was just sort of misguided, looking for revenge, had been raised by a father who only wanted revenge, so I can't say if she will be a villain forever. But in this book, she is definitely one of the main villains, I would say, because she betrays Mia, which means that Mia has her own personal vendetta against her. And the thing that I loved about Aisling in this is that I absolutely never saw it coming. And there's also the fact that she cares about Mia. She tried to get Mia to leave so she would have nothing to do with it. But Mia came back for trick, obviously, and found out. But Aisling isn't a stone cold villain. She does care about people. She cares about Mia, and she didn't want to hurt Mia, but that other part of her that after revenge for her father was more than her love for Mia, and so she does turn out to be a villainous character. Number 3 contains mild spoilers again. Like I said, there's a lot of unlikely villains on here, so the people who start off not being a villain and then turn into one. So this is spoilers for the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard. If you haven't read the first book, then don't watch this bit of the video. And my number 3 is Maven. I never liked Maven more than Cal, but I never saw it coming that Maven would be a villain. I didn't see the betrayal come in. I didn't know that Maven was capable of that. He plays the character of being the quiet, overlooked son very, very well. And I didn't think that he had it in him to sort of be the absolute unfeeling, evil person that he is. Without going too much into it because of spoilers, in the 3rd book you do get a little bit more insight of why he's like he is, which I liked because, as you may have noticed, I like a developed villain. I don't like a character to be that's the villain and that's it, there's no reason why. I like to know the reason why these people have been driven to do things, and I think it really helps the story because at the end of the day everybody is like they are for a reason. Just because they're the villain, that doesn't mean that you don't need to understand the reason. I know there are a lot of people that want sort of, they still ship Mare and Maven, which I can't see how that would be possible because he's just a horrible, horrible person now. But I do appreciate him as a villain, and like Mare, I do kind of mourn for the boy that we all thought that he was in the first book. But I don't think there's any salvation for Maven. The only salvation for Maven would be death. And I do think he's a great villain though, and he was another one that completely tricked me and I had no idea that he was a bad guy. Number 2 on my list is Bellatrix from Harry Potter. Bellatrix, I would say, is my absolute favourite Harry Potter character. I absolutely love her, and it also helps that I love Helena Bonham Carter. But I have a thing for evil characters, and I just love how evil she is and that she's a little bit mad as well. I don't really feel like I need to explain why I love Bellatrix because she is just phenomenal. She is great and she shows no mercy, and and there's no holds barred, and she doesn't stop to chat. Like, she will just like come out and kill you, and I just think she's amazing. And last but not least, definitely not least, is number 1 on my top 10 villains, and that is Levana from the Lunar Chronicles. I really like evil queens. Levana is similar to the Queen of Mont Messner in that she never wanted to be evil. If you read the novella Fairest, which is all about Levana's life story, like, if you haven't read it and you have read the Lunar Chronicles, I would highly recommend it, because it gives you such an insight into Levana's life to a point where I kind of feel sorry for her. Levana had a difficult sort of childhood. She fell in love with somebody who would never love her back, and in her desperation she kind of forced him to love her. I think she had something to do with his wife becoming ill or something like that as well. She's just a person who wanted things and had no idea how to get them, and so she went about everything the complete wrong way, and then eventually ended up her being absolutely nothing like the person that she was. I don't think that she turns into the person that she even wanted to be. It wasn't her aim at the start. It's just how it turned out. And again, she's another villain with a backstory, so she isn't just evil for no reason. Things have been done to her. She's done things. There is reasons for why she's not very nice. I just found Fairest really, really sad, because even though she is the villain, I did just feel awful for her. That's why she makes the number 1 spot on my list of favourite villains. So that's everything for this top 10. I hope you like this video. If I have mentioned any of your favourite villains, then please pop a comment below and let me know. Also, if I've missed anybody that you think should be on this list, then also let me know, because I did struggle to fill the last couple of spaces because I couldn't think of any really good villains. But that's everything from me today. Please don't forget to like and also subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!